Intel's CEO is under fire, and the stakes are incredibly high. Accusations of conflicts of interest are flying, and the company's future hangs in the balance. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this a legitimate concern for national security, or is it political pressure being applied to a major American corporation? On August 8, 2025, the situation escalated when former President Donald Trump publicly called for Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan to resign immediately. This demand, made via a social media post, stemmed from concerns about Tan's past investments in Chinese companies, investments that some believe could compromise U.S. national security. Trump specifically criticized Tan's financial ties to China, implying a conflict of interest. Tan, the head of Oregon's largest private employer, has responded by vehemently defending his commitment to both U.S. economic growth and national security. This public affirmation comes after Trump's initial social media attack earlier in the week, which caused Intel's stock to take a hit. According to Tan, there's been a wave of misinformation circulating regarding investments he made while holding previous positions at other firms. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas has also voiced concerns about these investments, particularly those involving Chinese companies with alleged ties to the Chinese government. And this is the part most people miss. These investments were made before Tan took the helm at Intel. Does that change the equation? In a statement released to Intel employees on Thursday, Tan emphasized that the company is actively engaging with the Trump administration to address these concerns. T stated, "I want to be absolutely clear. Over 40-plus years in the industry, I've built relationships around the world and across our diverse ecosystem, and I have always operated within the highest legal and ethical standards. My reputation has been built on trust, on doing what I say I'll do and doing it the right way. This is a strong statement of intent, but will it be enough to quell the concerns?" Tan also indicated that he has the full support of Intel's board of directors, which is a crucial vote of confidence during this turbulent time. Intel's presence in Oregon is significant, employing around 18,000 people, primarily at its research and development manufacturing campus in Hillsboro. While this is a substantial number, it's worth noting that Intel's Oregon workforce has decreased from a peak of 23,000, reflecting the company's recent struggles. The semiconductor giant has faced increasing competition in recent years, particularly from rivals who were quicker to capitalize on the burgeoning artificial intelligence market. This has led to financial difficulties for Intel, with nearly $19 billion in losses reported last year. The previous CEO abruptly retired in December, adding to the company's instability. Tan assumed the CEO role in March and immediately implemented aggressive cost-cutting measures. These measures have included laying off over 2,000 Oregon workers this year and scaling back on manufacturing investments. These actions, while necessary from a business perspective, have undoubtedly contributed to the anxiety surrounding Intel's future. Trump's call for Tan's resignation on Truth Social, labeling the Intel CEO as highly conflicted, almost certainly refers to the concerns raised by Senator Cotton and others regarding Tan's investments in Chinese companies. It's important to remember that it is perfectly legal for American business leaders to hold investments in other countries. Furthermore, the U.S. president does not have the direct authority to remove a company's CEO. So, what's really going on here? Chandler James, a political science professor at the University of Oregon, points out that Trump's public demand for Tan's resignation is consistent with his treatment of political rivals. This suggests that the situation may be less about genuine national security concerns and more about Trump exerting pressure on a company to align with his administration's policies. James argues that Trump's approach to interacting with businesses is far more aggressive than what is typically seen from the highest office. This is not an isolated incident of Trump pressuring this one individual, James said, but a part of a pattern of activity that seeks to use the power of the presidency and all the resources of the government to bring pressure on individuals and businesses and groups such as universities or law firms to change their policies in a way that Trump sees fit. This raises serious questions about the appropriate use of presidential power. James emphasizes that presidents are generally hesitant to use the government's power to target individual companies or people. Trump, however, has consistently chosen to leverage his position in this way. It's hard for one individual to stand up to the full might of the federal government, James said, highlighting the potential for abuse of power. Trump's demand for Tan's resignation coincides with the administration's efforts to broker deals with other major companies to invest in the U.S. Apple, for example, recently announced plans to invest an additional $100 billion to bring more of its supply chain to the U.S. in order to mitigate the impact of tariffs. Ryuta Makino, a research analyst at Gabelli Funds, suggests that the administration may be hoping for a similar commitment from Intel. I think, if you read between the lines, that's what President Trump is after, Makino said. Just from a timing perspective, this interpretation adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The challenge, according to Makino, is that Apple has significantly more capital to invest than Intel, which is currently pulling back on investments and cutting costs due to its recent financial struggles. While Intel's stock did experience a dip following Trump's social media post, Makino believes that investors are ultimately more concerned with Intel's overall performance. He dismisses the president's statement as noise and a brief distraction. So, what's the real story here? Is Lip-Bu-Tan a national security risk? Or is Intel being used as a pawn in a larger political game? Is it fair to hold a CEO accountable for investments made before their tenure at a company? And perhaps most importantly, what responsibility does a president have to avoid using their power to pressure individual companies? Share your thoughts in the comments below.